by the same token, as Linda's going to get into, Dish's proposal is fairly minor. They're proposing a very small footprint within the existing compound. They're not extending the height of the tower, so I don't want to over-engineer it either. The village stands to benefit by having Dish on the tower because there'll be enhanced wireless coverage. There'll be an additional provider to help try and keep costs down for the average consumer in the village of Pleasantville, which I'm sure Linda's going to go into. So it's really, I'd have to do the analysis and look at the existing lease before I can make a recommendation in that regard. But I don't have an opinion one way or another at this point.
Okay, but nothing leaps out as a reason one would.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Correct.
Linda, are you on?
I am, thank you.
All right, take it away, Linda.
Well, I appreciate, first of all, I want to say thank you. I appreciate your time this evening for letting me discuss this dish installation at the site. Dish is a new carrier. One of the reasons the DOJ allowed the T-Mobile Sprint merger to go through was because of Dish coming onto the site, just to kind of, keep these carriers very competitive. Dish is a small carrier. They don't have a lot of resources, as they're the new kid on the block, so to speak. And they're looking to install on as many sites as they can, as fast as they can. So with that said, Crown has stepped in, and we're working with them to try to assist with this project to move forward in a timely manner. On this particular site, because of the terms of the lease, what they're looking to do, number one, is waive that direct ground lease provision, which means, per terms of the lease that we have now, they are supposed to work directly with the village for their ground space. They're only looking for 48 square feet of ground space. Typically what they need is 35, which is an area of about 5 by 7, but they go a little bit bigger to a 40 square footage, which would be a 6 by 8, just for room to move around. What they're going to do with that square footage is put one cabinet, one small cabinet, which will be within that fenced-in area. So there'll be no, pushing out of the fence or expanding that fenced compound area. On the tower itself, they're looking to install 3 small antennas. Those antennas will be within the canister. So there'll be no change in the appearance of the tower because of those 3 antennas. It's a stealth tower, and typically those they're a little bit they're more difficult to work with than the other towers, but they are going to not increase the height of the tower, and they will not be increasing the width of the tower. Those antennas are going to fit right inside the canister. So if you were to look at the tower or at the compound, the fenced-in compound, you wouldn't notice any type of a change. So that would be the first request, is to waive that direct ground lease provision and allow Crown to work directly with the village for this square footage. And then we'll sublease it to Dish. Dish is willing to pay $500 a month for this square footage. And Crown is looking to, we'll need to obtain consent from you folks to sublease to Dish. And that's basically the terms of the third amendment.
Okay. And why is it that it is desirable for Dish not to do this directly and instead to do it through Crown?
Well, number one, they don't have the resources. So if we don't work through Crown, you wouldn't be working through Dish anyways. They would have to hire their own vendor. They've got outside vendors that we work with. So then you would be working through Dish's vendor, which then would work with you folks as well as work with Crown. So if you work directly with Crown, you'd eliminate basically one participant in this project. Otherwise, you'd be working with Dish's vendor and Crown on this, because Crown would still need to move forward with your consent. So we would need consent to submit to this anyways. So it streamlines the process. And I think it moves the process along a little bit quicker, and dishes come to us and they prefer to have Crown work on their behalf as opposed to an outside vendor working on their behalf. Because, we're there at the site already, we understand the site, we understand the business. It just makes to streamline the process a little bit easier and quicker for everybody.
Okay. So proposed third amendment says it's $500 a month and that shall not escalate.
Exactly. Their payment does not escalate. Obviously, the others all do. But like I said, the new kid on the block, they don't escalate their payment.
And
It's a straightforward payment.
forever?
Yes.
So why
That's how
would we,
Crown's getting paid also. Yes.
why is that reasonable?
Because, again, they're the new kid on the block and they have limited resources.
Yeah, but inflation affects everybody equally, does it not?
I totally agree. I totally agree. But this is something that all the carriers have taken on. And just all the tower companies have taken on. And Dish isn't working just with Crown, they're working, with the other tower companies also. And it's,
I mean, the carriers are not enthusiastically encouraging competitors to come on and giving them a good deal. It's the middlemen who are giving them the good deal, right?
explain that a little bit more, please.
So I
I'm not sure,
assume,
I'm looking at the question.
I assume that T-Mobile, as the tenant of this tower, the lessee of the tower, right? Lessee, I'm sorry.
Let's see, yes.
Is not all kinds of enthusiastic about inviting new competitors into the market at a discount rate. I'm sure they're all kinds of enthusiastic about sharing the cost of a
To be honest
tower.
with you, I do think they know that they're the new kid on the block. No, I think they welcome the addition of another carrier. It would just be the way that Sprint T-Mobile merger went down. The DOJ only approved that because of the emergence of Dish.
All right, so I guess look,
just because of the competitiveness.
I don't mean,
Actually, that's
yeah, I get it. I don't mean to be ornery. I just don't know why we would agree to a permanent, never-ending lease that never escalates.
Let me ask you this. And I don't know if I can, Crown may be able to step in and help out with that escalation. If I take this back and see if we can get an escalation, is that something that you would consider?
I think that would be good. What do you think, Keith?
I don't know if it happened, to be honest with you, but I'm happy to take it.
Look, I mean,
take it back to
if any of us could
and work with
sign,
you folks.
if any of us could
Yeah, so-
sign a permanent monthly rent that never changes in the history of our lives,
Right.
we'd be all over it.
Right.
Yeah, I think the basic question here is what is fair market value for this
Mhm.
space? And is what Dish is proposing in keeping with the rate that the other carriers are paying? Eric and I did a very quick back of the napkin analysis and tried to figure out what the price per square foot is
Mhm.
for some of the other carriers. And Dish wasn't too far off, but the
Right.
lack of annual escalations is obviously apparent.
Right.
And as you pointed out, with inflation, that's only going to get worse with time. So I think it's a reasonable question to ask Dish and or Crown whether or not they'd be willing to staff their proposal to bring their rent more in line with what the other carriers pay.
The thing is with this, the other carriers their ground space is quite a bit, it typically runs about 250 square feet as opposed to Dish's, which is about 48. So it's quite a bit larger, so obviously they're paying more money because they're taking up more ground space.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
reasonable.
it's-
Right? I don't argue with that at all. I just feel
You're concerned about the escalation, is that correct, sir?
it is what I'm concerned about. That's right.
Okay, let me go back and see if I can work with them and see if Crown will work. If Crown can hop in on this one and try to,
I mean,
work
honestly,
with some type of an escalation.
I mean, a reasonable escalation on $500 a month is not an eye-popping number that's going to affect any of our lives. It just feels like fundamental fairness.
Yep, nope, I can take this back to Glenn and see if they
Okay, great.
participate.
I mean, I think
and
in
assist with that.
concept, adding a new provider in our market is great.
It is. It is. You know, it helps with the, 9/11, public safety, fire, police. It helps with the constituents as far as, the broadband, Wi-Fi, cellular, with so many folks now working remote, businesses and schools. It just, this Wi-Fi is so important nowadays. Even in purchasing homes, what we're finding is a lot of folks, before they'll buy a home, they want to make sure that they've got good connectivity or they look elsewhere. So even in home values, it's something to reach into that industry.
Understood and appreciated. Thank you. All right.
Keith, where do you recommend we go from here? We'll wait for word back from Linda on the price escalation.
Yeah, I think so. I think the ball's in Crown's court to come back with a revised proposal for the board's consideration. In addition to the rent, the other carriers have compensated the village for its out-of-pocket costs in connection with any leasing and zoning, so I would expect Crown/Dish to offer the same here. And there may be some technical considerations or questions that the board may have. For example, if Dish comes on, is there still additional capacity for any other carriers? I think all the major carriers are already on this tower, so it's not a huge consideration. But just as Dish recently received a license to operate, presumably in the future, known as a crystal ball, there could be future carriers licensed in this region, and it would be helpful to know whether or not there's additional capacity there. I believe when the original tower was built, it was designed to accommodate T-Mobile and 6 other carriers. So we're probably pretty close to capacity, depending on what the weight of the antennas is, et cetera. So that's another thing that the board may want to take a look at. So in terms of the village's out-of-pocket expenses, I would hope to see that in Crown's revised proposal, it's not only willing to offer annual escalations, but also to cover the village's costs in connection with both the lease agreement and the building permit.
Keith, let me ask you, do you have any type of an estimate of what the out-of-pocket expenses may be?
We could take a look and see what it's been in the past and give you a general estimate.
Sure. Yep. They give me an idea of what that can be, and I'll certainly go back to Crown with that, as well as the an annual escalation and capacity for the carriers on that tower. Is there anything else besides those 3?
May I ask a question? I'm just, excuse me. Hi, I'm Michael Peppard. I'm just curious. We haven't talked yet about the benefits to either coverage or capacity for the cellular network. Is there any estimate of what the benefit will be for residents?
Well, I think we did mention that a little bit earlier. Basically, it as you well know, it helps with the 9/11 public safety, fire, police, and it does help the more carriers you have. It drives down the cost to the constituents. So that is important, as well as it increases the service, the Wi-Fi, the cell service, the broadband, to schools, businesses, individual.
Right. No, I understand.
To customers that buy the Dish product, right, has no effect on other carriers.
And not necessarily. When you are with the carrier, that would be the first hit. Like if you're with Verizon, obviously you don't get off of the Verizon. But if that's that capacity, then it will go to the next one and the next one. So to have one loaded tower is important. It's better than having one tower. It's better to have one tower with 4 or 5 carriers than 5 towers with one carrier. And it works aesthetically, but also the way the carriers, the antennas work off each other. That is it works better that way than singular hopping from one tower to the next, to the next, to the next.
Thank you.
All right, anybody have other questions? Sounds like we got a way forward, so thank you. Don't misunderstand. We're certainly pleased to have Dish's interest in the village and look forward to working this out.
Very good. Okay, I
Okay.
appreciate it. I'll go back to Crown with these two items. And Keith, you'll be my point of contact. And I will be in touch with you sometime in the next week or so with some of these answers. And I may have more questions, but certainly I'll come back to you with some answers also.
Okay, great, thank
Very
you.
good. Well, thank you so much, folks. I appreciate your time and your consideration, and look forward to working with you folks in the future.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, be well, folks. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. I'm gonna drop
Have a
off.
great evening. Be well.
Thanks,
Take
Keith.
care. Bye, Keith. Bye, Linda.
Bye
Good
bye.
to see you.
You too now.
All right, next up, Steve Rimkunis, Village Pool update.
Hey, Steve, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
And we can see
I
you.
guess you can hear me.
We can hear you and we can see you.
Okay. All right. So just to give you an update as to how we're moving along. Right now, the drawings for the DOH are still being completed. We expect to be done within the next couple of weeks. So we should be filing for the DOH right around the end of the month to get the permits. DOH currently right now is taking approximately 12 to 16 weeks to review. That's for the first set of comments. So, that's going to take us into September, October-ish. So, just a quick reminder, we had a little bit of a delay waiting on the decisions to be made with the stormwater. So we are, a little bit, we're running a different schedule than what we had originally planned. But I think it's going to be to our advantage. So we're planning to go out to bid in the fall once we have the DOH permit. This gives us the opportunity, we're not going to start construction until fall of 23. So we need to get through this season and one more with the pool as it is.
So on that subject, Steve, when you and Eric and I chatted, we raised the question and just wondering if you view it as a logical way to go to bid and contract for this as soon as we reasonably can, with a shovel in the ground date of right after Labor Day 2023, with the notion that that would give a contractor an opportunity to start getting in the waiting line for anything that is supply limited, and perhaps the village can find storage space to provide for that contractor if that makes sense. Does that sound like a logical thing to do? Potentially have somebody contracted 6 months before the shovel's in the ground?
I do think that under current conditions, that's a great idea. We've been seeing slowdowns just waiting on equipment. Recently, there was a project that ended up getting canceled, and because the electrical components were 6 months delayed. So we couldn't even start the project even if we wanted to. With pool construction, we're stuck. We've got September to the beginning of June, end of May to get your pool completed and up and running. We don't have time to wait 6 months for an electric panel, and we don't want to start construction and end up that you don't have a pool, right? So the concept of getting the bid awarded in late fall or so gives the contractor plenty of time to get his submittals together, go through the whole submittal process and order the items and get past this long-term, delay in getting materials.
All right, so
you
can you spin out what that schedule looks like? You submit to DOH.
Well, we should be submitting to the DOH hopefully at the end of the month.
Okay, so that's end of June. DOH responds in 3 to 4 months, right?
Right, so hopefully by the end of October, we'll have comments. I would add just another month because they always have comments. We have to go back and forth a little bit. There's not going to be any major comments, but there'll be something. and just, everything takes time with them. So we'll be able to go out to bid, near the end of the year, November, December, and then have, go through your award process, which is probably another month or so. So hopefully we can award the contract in the end of January, it sounds like.
Okay.
If I did the math right in my head.
And so can we put out that request for bids with a schedule built into it that has any kind of incentives or penalties associated with meeting, exceeding, or failing at the schedule?
Yes, we can absolutely do that.
I mean, is
Yep.
that, do you recommend that? I don't want to scare off bidders, but I also want, obviously, we had hopes that
Right.
that
Well,
clearly are not
The way
viable.
to not scare anyone off is to keep it balanced. Meaning if you punish them if they take too long, and you kind of reward them if they can get it done faster. And we can discuss that in more detail and pick dates that work out.
At any rate, I mean, based on your advice in the past, it sounds as though if we had a contractor lined up in the winter with a contract that allows them to buy stuff and get paid for it in an incremental way that early, that should massively improve the chances of finishing on time, right?
Yes. I mean, I think that the contractors would like that a lot, especially the way things have been going lately.
And how have things been going? So, can you comment on what we're seeing in the escalation of prices?
Well, we're still seeing high prices, and most recently, I'm still seeing the prices go up. It's the same old story that's been going on lately. The supply chains are an issue, and when supplies are around, it's first come, first serve, and a lot of it is just, the prices are way up. You see it at Home Depot, just at the price of a 2x4. At one point, before this all started, you could get a 2x4 for under $3, and now you're getting them under $9 or around $8. That's the escalation right there. I like anyone else, I don't know what to say about any of that. It's we're still seeing it. It's still going up. And like I said, we had a project recently that they had to cancel the bid, because of the price came in too high, and also there was the 6-month delay in getting materials. So it's still happening.
Yeah. So, but based on what you're seeing in the world now, if we gave somebody a potentially 6 or 7 month running start to get materials, with a willingness to pay incrementally as they buy them, does that feel like it overcomes the problem, or?
I think it's a good approach to the problem. If you can get, if it's easier for everybody. If, when the salesman says, hey, you gotta wait 6 months, and the contractor can say, okay, fine, I'll wait, but I'm not paying that price, I wanna pay a lower price. And they're more cooperative about it, maybe that's beneficial. I don't know, I'm speculating on that, but I would think that it made things a lot easier and everybody.
So, but on recent bids that you've been involved in, I know you said the one about that had to be canceled, but in general, building a new pool, you're not getting contractors coming back and saying, wait till next year, I can't do this, I can't get the equipment?
No, that's, I'm not sure I completely heard you, but yes, that's, the experience has been that projects were canceled or rebid due to high costs and delays in material.
All right, and did you see any thaw in that? Is it getting better?
I haven't seen it get better yet. There's still a struggle going on. And I'm thinking, I do have another large project similar to yours, but a bit larger. The bids are coming in next week, so I'd be happy to, share that information with you, see what's going on in there.
Okay, so, and is the universe of bidders on that project potentially similar to the bidders for our project?
Yes, yep, same players probably.
Okay, so that will be interesting to know. You'll know that in a week or two?
Yes, I believe the bid date is the 23rd.
All right. But our numbers on our side of the table, originally believed to be in the 2.8 million range are now in the 4-point-something million range. Right?
Yes, yep.
Wow, that's-
I mean, that's it's not too far off from what we've been seeing. These two projects I was just speaking of that were canceled and postponed were both projected around 450. One came in at 860 and another one came in at 1.2 million. I mean, they were different, scopes of work, but similar
And is that
pricing.
driven not just by equipment and materials, but also by labor costs, or are labor costs fairly stable?
No, the labor has been fairly stable, I think. The smaller project, I think that the schedule was very tight. Was a lot tighter than the other one, which might have helped drive that one up. But for the most part, the labor didn't seem to be the problem.
Mr. Mayor, is Steve up to date on our discussions about flood remediation from last meeting?
He is.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, the short version of a long story about flood remediation is the cost of the cure is probably greater than the cost of the disease.
Mhm.
Right?
As a guest, I have no idea what the acronym DOH is.
Department of Health.
Okay.
The county Department of Health has to review and approve any plans for a swimming pool, and they give us a license every year and inspect us every year for our existing pool. You want to build a new pool, you pitch it over the transom and wait, as we've just heard from Steve, between 3 and 4
I
months.
was lost as to what that was.
Yeah. Well, we are too.
It's an important piece.
And we know who it is. We're still lost. So sorry about that. All right. And then, of course, everybody's getting hammered at the same time with increased bond costs. So,
Yeah.
all right, Steve, what magic can you what magic powder can you shake over this project? That's what we hired you for, magic powder.
Well,
Yeah, I wish I had something. We're just going to keep pushing forward, unless we hear otherwise.
All
and then Steve, just I think one point to make is we've talked about value engineering the project, trying to find savings. Steve, do you want to just take a second to talk about, the fact that this is actually a rather simplistic pool project?
Right. And as far as pools go, we're not doing anything, extravagant or unusual. Everything's fairly simple, and there's not a whole lot we can take away. And even if you went away with some of the things, we talked about taking out the diving hopper and not making the pool so deep, something like that is really not an effective cost. Once we're digging a hole, it makes no difference if we go an additional 2 feet, because the equipment's already right there. And, the digging is actually the easy part. That's about it. I mean, we started out with not going for the more expensive slide. We have a less expensive slide. It's 14 feet or 16 feet instead of the 19 to 20. So there's not a whole lot that we can actually dig out, and it's all a lot of basic concrete. PVC pipe. PVC pipe is, that's directly related to oil prices. So every time you see the gas go up, you know that the PVC pipe is going up. But that's it. I mean, we're not putting anything extravagant into the pool.
Right. And I think the reality of our current situation is we're seeing municipal projects out to bid that were cost estimated as late as November that are coming in 50% over cost estimates. So this is a very unique situation we're confronting.
Yeah, my experience has been higher than that as well.
Bite your tongue, Rimkunis. All right, well, you're pretty confident you can finish these drawings by the end of the month?
Yes.
Okay, so we look forward to hearing that, and then you submit them to DOH?
Yep, I'll take care of that. Right.
Okay. Anybody else have questions, comments?
No, it seems like we just gotta take it one step at a time,
Costs a lot of money to dig a hole and fill it with water.
apparently.
All right, thanks, Steve.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. And then just on the regulatory side, now that we're not doing the stormwater management, that regulatory process is simplified. It's a type 2, basically, in the secret process, but there is a wetland buffer that the pump house is within. So we'll talk about, that's a village code, so we can talk about the next steps on that end. But, you know, from what we're confronting with the Army Corps of Engineers, we've now certainly sliced that down.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, Steve? Do
I'm
you,
sorry?
maybe for the benefit of the board, you should give the thumbnail sketch about the issue of the pool house and its relationship to the wetlands buffer, I'm sorry, the pump house.
Okay. Yes, the filter building, we're proposing a new filter building to house the equipment. And we're about, I think it actually worked out to be 22 feet encroaching into the wetlands boundary.
Now, so we say the wetlands boundary is what, 50 feet from?
The beginning of the stream.
50 feet from the edge of the creek.
Right, and the issue here is the creek is under a parking lot, right? We're not talking about 50 feet from the edge of a natural creek, right? Yes?
That's correct, yeah. I mean, the creek is, there's many things encroaching into
Yeah.
that creek.
So,
Parking lot on the other side, and,
Right.
you know, a good
Basketball.
part of the parking lot still comes over it, yes, over the creek. And
so the issue is whether it is logical or helpful to move the pump house closer to the fence on the cottage school side to get farther away from the presumed wetlands buffer, which is in actuality at that point a parking lot, right? Have I got that right?
Yeah, so that's, you know, that grassy field is there right now. So it's just.
Moving the pump house
building's
wouldn't
gonna-
change its position on the grassy field, right?
I'm sorry?
The question is whether we slide it in its current position closer to the fence by the cottage school or keep it closer to the fence by the parking lot, right? We're not
Correct.
talking about sliding it deeper into the grassy field closer to the basketball courts, right?
That's correct. Nope, we go towards the fence line at
Mm-hmm.
the cottage.
Are
Okay.
there issues with respect to flooding, depending on which of those positions you choose?
Well, we've designed the building to prevent flooding of the filtration equipment.
All right,
So
so
we
I'm
put the building,
gonna, Sheriff,
Nope.
can you see my screen there, Steve?
yes,
These are your drawings, right? So page 1 here, this is the filter room, right?
that's correct.
That's
And-
the one
and-
that's too close?
And that is the location you had designed it originally.
Right.
Right.
And you can see that dashed line is the wetland boundary.
Okay.
So almost going through the middle of the building.
So let me, right, that's this line.
Right,
Yes.
Now, we say wetlands boundary, there isn't anything wet here, right?
Correct.
This is the dumpster and the end of the parking lot, right?
Well,
I mean, the creek has not emerged from its underground culvert yet at this point, right?
No,
It does it right
comes
here.
out right where you're
Right. This is where it emerges, right?
That's the head wall of the creek.
Okay. So then the alternative would be this to slide it back, right?
Yep.
Okay. So from a functional or cost standpoint, 6 to 1 half dozen the other, right?
Right.
From a utility of the site standpoint, it's nicer to have this area open, right? As
right.
opposed to the building kind of squarely in the middle and you have to go around
There's
either
no
end,
space.
right?
Yeah.
True?
Yes.
So my take on this is if there is a reasonable concern about moving it, we should. If moving it is not achieving anything because of the conditions that already exist here, we're better off leaving the way it is and addressing the encroachment by whatever administrative means we have. Right? Fair to say?
I agree with that.
You there, Steve?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I agree with what you're saying. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I thought you were asking the board.
Yeah, well, right. So from your standpoint, maybe this is a little out of your wheelhouse. Does this encroachment into the presumed wetlands buffer actually make any difference in this environment when we've already got a parking lot and blacktop and a dumpster pad and all of that that's been there for decades?
Right. No, I don't believe there's any impact at all.
Just seat of the pants, it doesn't seem like there is.
Right.
Okay.
This is the first I've seen these plans.
So Steve just did this
Oh, okay, yeah.
to address, because this issue came up about
Okay.
this is a village code
Yeah.
about the wetlands buffer.
Right. While we're looking at it, could I note the shade structures on the south side that I see there? They're labeled number 7. The proposed on all 3 of those. That I don't think they're necessary because that's all in the shade anyway.
These,
It's all shaded by these enormous, all the
I
enormous
mean, this
trees.
is not always shaded, is it?
No, not that one, but the 3 along the south border.
Unless Mario cuts down a bunch of trees, which he's threatening to do.
But that's not our. I thought it was not our property, is it?
This is
I
our
think it
property
is,
line
yeah.
here, right?
Yeah, it goes
I mean,
back.
we own,
No,
we
but
own
the-
a little bit beyond the
really?
fence, right?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, but the
I
hill up.
think
I
so.
mean,
We
with
don't
the
own
way
a
it's
lot.
graded, like
Right.
the hill and the size of those trees. I mean, I go to the pool all the time. That's in the shade almost the whole day.
Okay.
That I'm just saying, if we're putting shade structures in, I think it would make sense to put them on the northern side of the other spots around
That
the
is
pool.
true.
Yeah, on
That's
the,
where it's sunny all day.
And Steve, is that a matter that has to be resolved now? Does the Department of Health care?
Well, the Department of Health doesn't care, but I think we did speak about that already. I think we're in the process of moving them around.
Okay, so do you know where you're moving them?
No, not exactly. And we'll send them to you for approval as well.
Okay. All right, let us know. Thank you for that, Mike.
Yep. As far as the DOH, as long as they're out of the 5-foot clear space, they're fine with wherever they'll be.
Okay.
So, you
Come
know,
on, if you can make French fries over here, you could have a shade structure there.
There's one there. You have to save the fries.
All right. Anything else?
No.
Eric, have we covered the bases?
I think we have.
Okay. All right, thanks, Steve.
All right, thank
We
you.
don't want to keep you any longer. We want you to go back to your drawing and bang those out.
Yep, we'll get it done.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Right on time.
Community table at the farm market.
Yes, so as you may know, I'm the liaison to the farm market right now, and they reached out to me wondering if we would be interested as a village board of having a representative or two at their community table this summer. And they proposed a few dates, and I settled on the date of August 20th with them, which could be very hot, but you know, we can dress appropriately. And you
What's
know,
the community table, just for?
yeah, so the community table is a table that is not a vendor. It is a table that distributes information on matters of interest to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought that since you know there are so many issues going on in the village that people have questions about, and there's a couple thousand people every day that or every week that go to the farm market, maybe some village board members could be there. And I talked to the mayor about this, and he expressed support. Also a question about the no politics rule at the farm market. And so I went back to them, you know, not that we would be bringing politics, but people might be bringing it to us, and that might affect the ethos. And the
Or
board.
anytime anybody asks a question, we could just say, sorry, no politics.
That's right, no politics. Yes, it's a philosophical thing. Is everything in a way? Everything could be politics
Right.
or nothing, right? So I came back to them with that, and they said they were not concerned for a number of reasons. One of which is that it's not an election year, and when they say no politics, they mostly mean no campaigning, and none of us are up for re-election of any kind. And they also thought it would just be a good thing to try and see how it goes to answer
I think
questions.
it's a good idea.
And we could bring published materials. I was just thinking we could bring the pool flyers and anything else that we have. So if you're open to it and willing, we penciled in August 20th, and I told them that we would, you know, I'm willing to commit to going the whole time, but we could also, depending on people's schedules, come in for an hour, come in for whatever works. I suppose if more than 3 of us were there at a time, we would have to know.
You're right.
That it would be a more meeting of the
But we
board.
could notice it.
But
right?
if we had 2 at a time, then it would be
I'll be away then, but I think it's a
That's
great
fine.
idea.
I may be away, I
Yeah.
won't know for sure, but yeah.
And yeah, the other date they proposed, I would be away. So and one of them was the music fest, and I thought that not a good
it's not
date.
win
So
yet. August 20th is fine by me.
okay,
Count me in.
I'll be around.
all right, all right. Thank
All right,
you.
great.
Good.
So then, at 8 o'clock, the first thing on our agenda is the swearing in of the new police officer.
Do we want to take public comment?
And we'll just finish here, and then the PIA ambassadors. Then we have the continuation of the public hearing on the leaf blowers. I've talked to a couple of you. It's my thought that we open or reopen this hearing that has ever been closed, hear what anyone has to say or what any of us has to say, and then close it, end it, with the thought that we reopen a public hearing, not necessarily long in the distance, but addressing a couple of questions that have arisen that I think are substantive, and one of them is whether commercial quality electric blowers are any quieter than leaf blowers, as some people have argued they're not. And so that raises the question whether we're really addressing the sound thing or not. But since my thought was we're not, we're I think generally, at least majority in the opinion that whatever we do wouldn't be taking effect until next spring anyway, that this strategy does not mean that we are not in a position to enact something soon. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm nervous about just putting it off indefinitely.
I get it.
I don't think that's. I think that commercial grade electric leaf blowers are quieter. I mean, I did some research after talking to you about that, and I certainly.
Okay.
That's what I've been told in the past.
And if that turns out to be confirmedly true, I think that will be good for us to be able to report.
Right, and obviously, this is an imperfect compromise, right? That doesn't do.
That's
Well,
right.
don't we have evidence from other communities who have done this? about whether it's had an effect or not? We've done substantially what we're proposing.
On reducing the noise
Yeah.
level?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it varies. I think it's something that is, you know, that is sort of a growing movement. Now it seems to be happening on the state level as well.
Which
and
is interesting and helpful, that thing you sent indicating that there's some rebate opportunities for commercial landscaping.
right,
Which is good
there's
news, right?
3 laws that are being proposed on the state level right now, and that's the one that seems the most likely to pass the soonest. Another one would ban gas-powered landscape equipment from being sold in New York State, and then the third one would be a seasonal ban on gas-powered leaf blowers, similar to what we're proposing.
I don't think we should push this past one more meeting. Like, we cannot,
I-
it's like taking
I-
the Band-Aid off.
I feel like
Too
too,
full.
like, I feel like if we just sort of close the hearing and then sort of leave this, you know, in an indeterminate state for the
Yeah.
future. And then I also think then we lose the benefit of putting it off for a year, because the whole idea of having it, you know, go into effect in the spring is that we pass the law now and then people have a year to prepare.
I'd rather either close it and pass the law now, or wait a week, close it then, wait till the next meeting, close it then, and pass the law then.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think we could afford to do one more round. We've had 3 at this point, but yeah, and I'm not going to be at the meeting after the next one.
I
will
won't
be at the
either.
next one, but
That's why you are.
Hey, you can move it to 2 meetings from now, and
Yeah.
I won't be here, and I'll be.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't frankly see the point. I feel like we've been through all this territory. I'd rather just move forward, and then if there's new evidence that comes up, we have a year to amend.
Well, at any rate, I don't see any reason to keep this public hearing open. We'll open it and then close it. We don't have it on the agenda to vote on it tonight, although it could be added by anyone's motion. If the group wants to put it on as it is at the next meeting in June,
2 weeks.
that's within everybody's power. I do personally think that there is a question to be addressed about whether we're really solving the noise problem. I say that in a way different from what I had up until now thought. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question then, sorry guys. The question then is, what would solve the noise problem? I think it would require something more dramatic, you know, such as the original proposal, which was to ban leaf blowers altogether in the summertime. But then, you know, we're going to get a lot more pushback.
Yeah, we
about
probably
it.
have to cancel all this, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, so we will continue that as we go. All right. We're going to end our work session and begin our public session. Tell me when you're ready to go, Shane. Good evening and welcome to the Village Board meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, June 13. We had a work session at 7. We begin our regular session now. And we have a number of guests tonight for 2 different important reasons. We are going to start with the swearing-in ceremony of a new police officer, Officer Joseph Sayeda. Let me invite Police Chief Eric Grutzner to the podium to introduce this great opportunity for the Village of Pleasantville and for Joseph Sayeda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So good evening, Mayor Shearer, Village Trustees, Village Administrator Morrissey, members, family, and friends of the Pleasantville Police Department and the Pleasantville community. So I'd like to take a few minutes tonight to introduce our newest officer, Joseph Sayeda, to the board and to the community. And in order to do that, I think it's important that we look back a little bit on the hiring process that we went through. Whenever a new police officer is hired in a municipality, there are 2 options. Either the officer can be hired new and be sent to the academy, or potentially taken as a transfer from a different agency. So in Mr. Sayeda's case, Officer Sayeda's case, he's coming from his most recent full-time police job in another jurisdiction here in Westchester County. And as we go through the process, it's very important for us to make sure that we're hiring the right person. A job this size really doesn't have the opportunity to make mistakes on hiring. It's critical for us to take every hire that we make seriously. And so we do a number of different things in order to make sure that happens. Obviously, first and foremost, we go back and we speak to some of the people who know him best, either personally or professionally. Some of the words that we commonly found people used to describe Joe were driven, composed, proactive, and helpful. And many people, especially his colleagues at his previous department, reported on his desire and it's in his personal nature to become part of the community, to work with the community, and so we thought that was very important and a critical step in our hiring process. Then we look at the officer's resume, and so Officer Sayeda has been a police officer for about 2 years. And in that time, most officers are just learning really how to be a police officer on their own, how to handle calls, how to deal with the public. But in this time, Officer Sayeda has gone to a number of other training schools. That's obviously a benefit for us as it brings some extra training in. There will be some trainings that we will not have to send him to. But it also spoke, we believed, to his desire to learn, his thirst for knowledge, and his desire to make himself a better police officer. Many of the schools that he attended, he did on his own time. And so it wasn't as if he was chosen from a group of police officers. He took the time and went and did these things on his own to make himself better. So some of the schools, excuse me, that he's attended, he's been to a number of FBI photography schools and the New York State Criminal Investigators course. These are very high-level schools. These are schools that you have to show a great deal of aptitude to get through. And as a young officer, you might expect that would be the kind of thing that a young officer would want to be trained on, right? You know, handling crime scene photography or potentially becoming, training yourself to be a detective. But other schools that he's also attended included the Crisis Intervention School, which we've talked about many times here in this room about our community's commitment to sending officers through that school. He supplemented that with a Crisis Intervention for Youth School. So we thought that was a particularly poignant decision on his part to attend that school. And additionally, he is a domestic violence investigation instructor. So he is actually qualified to teach other officers how to handle those types of investigations. And just to speak to the breadth of his knowledge and his training, he also went to a property and evidence room management school, which, again, not the kind of thing you would expect an officer with a very little amount of time on the job to think of to go to, but in doing so, he makes himself more of an asset to his department. And so we obviously recognized that this was his resume spoke for itself when we went over it. So his commitment to a wide variety of learning and willingness to follow a different path to achieve his goals have made him a strong candidate. But like I said, the comments that we got from the people he worked with, the people that he knew, his commitment to not only his community but also to people outside of the community, being willing to be helpful, being willing to extend himself, we thought he was somebody who we were very anxious to make sure that we had the opportunity to hire. In addition, I'd just like to say hiring is tricky in general for people in all walks of life. But in municipal government, hiring is especially tricky because of the requirements of the bureaucracy that go along. And so I just want to take the opportunity to thank Village Administrator Morrissey and Village Clerk Alyssa Hochstein for all of the help that they did. It's been a process, and everyone has remained steadfastly committed to making sure that we bring in the best candidates as quickly as possible and get them out serving in the community. So at this point, I'd ask Mr. Mayor if you could come forward. Joe, if you want to step up. And we do have a tradition here where the significant other of the person who is here. So, Mr. Mayor, if you wouldn't mind.
The significant other gets to poke you with a pin if she so desires. So, One of the great pleasures of my job is to welcome folks like you into our realm. Obviously, you come extremely well recommended. The chief, the lieutenant, and all the folks here in the department are here behind you, and look forward to having you as a member of our force. So if you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joseph Sayeta, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Code of the Village of Pleasantville,
the Code of the Village of Pleasantville,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duty of police officer
the duty of police officer
for the Village of Pleasantville
for the Village of Pleasantville
according to the best of my abilities.
according to the best of my abilities.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome to Pleasantville. Good job.
Welcome.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nicole, nice to meet you.
Welcome to the family. So, in order to make that official, we'll just jump ahead and ask Trustee Alvarez to read resolution number 165.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees, based upon recommendation of the Chief of Police, hereby appoints Joseph Sayeta to the Police Officer, job title 134, Police Officer, 4th grade, at a salary of $76,802, effective June 14th, 2022. Said appointment is subject to a probationary period of a minimum of 52 weeks and can be extended to a maximum not to exceed 78 weeks.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Welcome, sir. All right, thank you. Those of you who are here for that event are welcome to enjoy the rest of our exciting meeting, but we will not be offended if you depart.
Take care. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Take care. Welcome.
So next up on our list tonight is an event that has always been an annual event, but in the world of the pandemic has been less than annual, and we are delighted to be back again with 5 members of our high school community who have joined us tonight as the Pleasantville International Association ambassadors for 2022. So these are young people who elect to go overseas in the summer and to visit other countries, to frequently live with families in those countries, to participate in a work project or a study project or a teaching project. It varies all across the board. And then they return here, and part of the quid pro quo is to have a community behind you. You need to come back and tell us about it. So it is my pleasure to invite each of you. Let me just move our little camera over here. We have a certificate for you, but we also have, what have we got, Eric? Hats?
Yeah,
All right.
Pleasantville hats.
Can one of you guys assist with the hats? Come forward.
I'm sure you're going to want to.
So we're giving you this certificate, suitable for framing, and we hope you will, and then this Pleasantville hat with the idea that in these other countries, you'll wear a Pleasantville hat, carry the flag. It'll be like the Stu Leonard's bag. You know, take a picture in an iconic spot wearing the hat. And I am confident that you'll end up in conversations in the far-flung places you're going to about Pleasantville, and you'll come back and report about those conversations back to us. I can report now quite some years ago, my own daughter was a PIA ambassador and went to Costa Rica, as is the case tonight for Jessica. I know where from I speak. The decision to do this is not only full of enthusiasm, but a certain amount of courage to jump on a plane and head out into the uncharted, distant globe and to live in a different place, in a different culture for a period of time. So I am mightily impressed by all of you who do it. I have been every year, and I look forward to hearing your stories when you come back. So is Trey Persons here, headed to Korea? Come on up. Thank you, sir. Kate Maroney, Ecuador.
Ecuador.
We have an expert on the subject in Trustee Paul Alvarez.
I'm from there. That's awesome. I'm going there in August.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's she going?
Where's she going?
Obey.
Ecuador and then Galapagos.
Nice.
Wow. Clara Nielsen Papish, headed to France.
Where in France are you going?
I'm going to Brittany.
Oh, nice.
So we've got our Francophile here also.
Yeah, she she was in my French class briefly.
Uh-huh.
Teach your French.
Well,
Jessica Seacrest, Costa Rica.
Excited.
And Sofia Vecchiarello, Puerto Rico. There you have it. Once a year, we gin up the Pleasantville Department of State. In my unanointed role as the Secretary of State, I look forward to sending out these 5 ambassadors and to hearing what you all have to say. So have a great time, have an exciting time, find out about the rest of the world and come back and tell us. It is an understatement to say we need more of that, and you guys are leading the way. Thank you all. All right, you too are welcome to stay the rest of the meeting, but it doesn't get more exciting than it's already been.
Unless you want to discuss leaf blowers.
The hats is a good idea.
Well, they're better than the bags, I think.
All right.
Yeah, it does a lot of those.
Next up on our agenda is a continuation of the public hearing concerning introductory local law 3 of 2022 concerning seasonal limitations on fuel-powered motorized leaf blowers. Is there a motion to reopen the continued public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome back. We meet again. There have been a lot of discussions on various aspects of this whole thing, and there's also been an ongoing discussion with a couple of different entities, including the school district, in particular about the problem they have with the organic fill material from the turf field, which rises in heavy rain. If I got that right, Eric?
That's correct.
Long story short, it requires some heavy-duty work to redistribute that, and they have sought, and the law currently provides, an exemption for the school district in the circumstance that they need to redistribute the fill on the turf field. You want to add anything to? Which one is it? This one? Okay.
Do you want me to give an overview?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the third public hearing, some of you may already know that, for an issue that has been ongoing for many years at this point. There was a big effort to pass some kind of legislation back in 2011, I believe. And so this has been going on for a long time. But just to catch you up to date, we have made a couple of amendments to the proposed law in response to some of the public comment that we received. The proposal originally was the law for the law to go into effect starting this summer. In response to some of the public comment we've received, we are now proposing that it would go into effect next spring instead of this summer, to allow people more time to adjust, to allow people time to, purchase equipment if they need to do so, or adjust their practices accordingly. We originally had a 2-year exemption for the golf course at the country club, and we got a lot of objections to that, both on the side of those who were in favor of legislation and those who were against it. And so we decided, given that we are essentially giving everybody a year's preparation time, that we would remove that exemption. The other change that we have proposed, because a lot of the complaints that we have received are about the noise issue. Of course, there are a number of different issues, right, with leaf blowers. There's air pollution, there's the carbon footprint piece. Noise is the one that we've heard the most about, and since we are proposing to, A, to put off the law for a year, and B, noise being the biggest issue, the other slight adjustment we're proposing is to slightly extend the quiet time on weekends and holidays. So currently, landscaping as equipment is permitted from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. on weekends and holidays. And so currently we're proposing to change that from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So it's a minor change. But.
Sooner than next year, right?
And that would go into effect, yes, thanks. That would go into effect once we, if we pass the legislation. So that could go into effect this summer. Any questions about the legislation that's being proposed?
Comment from the board before we engage anybody in the...
Just one point of clarification. I'm not sure the law that we are looking at is written that way. That one part of it goes into effect now. It is?
The time would go effect in a year, but we can amend it accordingly
yes.
to have that take
Yeah,
effect
the idea would be for that to go into
Okay.
effect now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just have to
thanks.
change that.
I appreciate that.
So we'd want to amend it to start when the law starts, right? Or do you
when
want
it's filed with the Secretary of State.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which would still be probably a
Oh,
month.
one other thing, so one of the things that has come up at these public hearings is the fact that many municipalities in Westchester County already have some kind of legislation in place to regulate leaf blowers. The most common one is similar to what we're proposing, which is no gas-powered leaf blowers during the summer months. But there are other versions as well. And this is a cultural shift. It's a technological shift, but it's also a cultural shift that is sort of gaining momentum. California has recently banned the sale of gas-powered lawn equipment. That's going to go into effect, I think, a couple of years from now. There are also 3 laws being proposed on the state level. There's one that has currently passed in the Senate and the Assembly, and that I believe is on the governor's desk right now. And that one would be a rebate program for electric landscaping equipment. You may know that we have recently had a rebate program in the village to allow people to convert from gas to electric lawnmowers and leaf blowers, which incidentally has been very popular. But we don't have the funds that would really sort of address the problem on a professional scale. But that is something that the state is looking into, and it looks very likely that that's going to pass too. There's also a proposed law to ban the sale of gas-powered landscaping equipment, equivalent to what California is doing. And then there's a third law that is being proposed to place a seasonal ban on gas-powered leaf blowers as well. So just so that have an idea of what is being proposed on the state level as well.
So we've received, as most of you know, lots of input in the previous 2 sessions, as well as some informal sessions since. We've also received a bunch of emails, and I think all of us continue to get some feedback from people on the street. I will say one question that has arisen in some conversations I've had is whether commercial quality electric blowers are actually quieter. There is clearly a carbon emission issue that's addressed by an electric blower, but some folks have argued that commercial electric blowers are not quieter, and that the issue may remain that if a landscape company that typically arrives with 2 or 3 or 4 blowers arrives having converted to electric, that it won't be any quieter. So that's a matter that we're digging into a little bit right now. So anybody else on the board want to comment before I invite anybody else?
Well, I would just respond to that, I agree we will dig into that more. The people that I've spoken to have indicated that they are quieter. Certainly the homeowner grade ones are quieter. But one resource that we may go to is an organization called Quiet Communities. An organization that has also partnered with Sustainable Westchester on these issues.
All right, comments from anybody in the audience? Come on up and give us your name and address if you would.
My name is Eileen West. I live in Foxwood. Foxwood is 35 acres. It's lovely, it's leafy, it's grassy, and the leaf blowers are noisy, and the smell from the leaf blowers is atrocious. And I would be very, very much in favor of a ban on fuel-powered leaf blowers, because the quality of life, wherever you might live, is very important. And I think really that this kind of destroys it. You're walking along and you hear these loud noises, you smell the gas, and it's just, it's not pleasant for Pleasantville. So.
Do you know, Eileen, whether the Foxwood board is sympathetic to this question?
I don't know, because fortunately I am not on the board anymore. I'm just speaking as a resident.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You, sir.
My name is Carl Venona, and I just wanted to ask the board, how many of you guys have actually operated a leaf blower? Okay, that's my question. I too have operated leaf blowers, and I will give you my testimony, just my own opinion. I recently bought an electric powered leaf blower. I will tell you this, I've had leaf blowers where I work on aircraft for a living, so I'm used to loud noises and fumes. Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. So my example to you is, I start this thing, okay, boom, boom, right, and then you get it. And then what is the first thing they do? Like you're on a motorcycle, boom, 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 so it makes it louder. I happen to have purchased one, and I love the thing, because
the electric.
It's electric,
yeah.
And I put it down, and you hit the button, and it blows,
right.
Okay. My personal experience, they are quieter. If you want to, we do in aviation, we do hearing tests every year. And if we are around decibels that are higher than a certain level, we are required to wear earplugs and ear protection. So if you want to know whether they're louder or not, there is test equipment out there that will tell you definitively whether they are or are not louder than gas blowers. Thank you.
Can I ask you a quick question while you're up there? So you love it. What about the usage of it? Power of like getting the leaves out and trying to do the main purpose?
Okay, well, as a homeowner, I'm not in the industry, obviously. You're doing this for other people, but I do it all myself. I do most of my garden work myself. As you can see by my yard, I do it myself. Okay.
I'm in the same boat.
So, okay. So I have a patio in which I have wells for the basement, and this thing actually does very well as far as getting in and around the areas to blow this stuff out. I'm not opposed to picking stuff up either and using a rake. I'm a multifaceted person when it comes to picking up leaves, okay? But Yeah,
So,
that's,
on
I
the-
find
on
they
the-
very effective.
Right.
In my opinion, totally effective for a homeowner, perfectly fine.
Right, on the noise
Thank you.
issue, and again, I'm not the guy who would know, but the claim was made to me that homeowner kind of electric blowers are definitely quiet, and I'm a few years ago convert to an electric mower, and it is way quieter as well as way better, I might add. But that the question was this new breed of truly commercial quality gizmos, including some that have a battery pack that you carry as a backpack in order to provide enough horsepower, are, in the view of this person, as loud or louder. And so that's the question
Well,
to dig out.
I can tell you
Right.
this, and I'll tell you this. We have the same situation in aviation, which is nothing more than a huge leaf blower.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And what you're talking about,
Really big.
okay, what you're talking about, there's capabilities of making industrial leaf blowers quieter. They're called hush kits. We put them on aircraft so that you don't have the noise, you have to worry about too much noise abatement at Westchester County Airport. There is engineering capabilities to make them quieter that way. Anytime you're forcing air at that velocity, you are going to sacrifice one thing, and it's going to be your ears.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
There are options.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, obviously they are still noisy. I mean, the feedback that I got is that they are 20 to 30 decibels quieter, which makes them 2 to 3 times quieter than gas-powered leaf blowers. I think the way that sound works is funny, right? Like it's not a relatively small reduction in the number of decimals ends up having a kind of multiplied effect in terms of the experience of sound, is my understanding. I'm not an engineer, so so
All right.
that
We
was
got one
my
hand up at
understanding.
Zoom, but let's, anyone in the audience who would like to speak first, then we'll go to the Zoom folks. Give us your name and address if you would, sir.
Yep. Brad Serlin, 159 Sarles Lane. I work from home, and noise, pollution, all those things, my statement is really brief. I'm for the proposed law, which is a partial ban. The last meeting I attended, someone mentioned that this has been spoken about for many, many years, and I feel like it's time it gets done. I personally feel the proposal is soft. However, it's a compromise, and that's what this is all about. Both sides don't seem to be too happy with this proposal, so it's probably going to work at least as a good first step. And you know, I think that makes sense, that at least this is a good place to start. I wish it was stronger, but I totally get it, and I hope that something gets done soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa Brown. I'm at 143 Great Oak Lane. I'm very much in favor of the proposed leaf blower restriction. It's not just about noise. There's considerable evidence that gas-powered leaf blowers cause significant pollution, both in their emissions and in all the leaf blowers, in the dirt, leaf mold, and feces that they spread. This is a health hazard, especially for those with respiratory conditions, which are becoming more and more common. This is even becoming an issue for global warming. For those of us at home, and I think that's what everybody's been talking about, when the landscape crews invade our neighborhoods, gas-powered leaf blowers are so loud and so disruptive and extremely unpleasant. And I, for one, am not clear why we are using them. I am in favor of letting people do whatever they please, but not when it affects the other people around them. And when it is a health issue and a quality of life issue, I am by no means alone in feeling like it's a quality of life issue. Then we must balance the rights of some against the negative impact that they have on others. It is the job of good government to protect the people from harmful air and noise pollution. I strongly believe we have a responsibility as a community to try to protect our environment. Gas-powered leaf blowers damage the environment, and their restriction will improve our ecology. So I'm very much in favor, and I thank you for considering your neighbor's well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Other speakers in the room?
Hello, my name is Clara Nielsen Papish.
We know that because you're going to France.
I live on 21 Guyon Street, and I'm a student at Pleasantville High School, and I'm currently studying conservation and ecology in the science research program. And I support this legislation because I believe it would be irresponsible to overlook the environmental impacts of the gas-powered lawnmowers. And besides the clear consequences of the carbon dioxide emissions with global warming, the noise pollution can have extreme detrimental impacts to the surrounding ecosystem as well as to the human residents. Noise pollution can reduce biodiversity, which can speed up the extinction of certain species, which makes it an important issue and that one that we can't ignore, especially with the current state of the environment.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other speakers in the room?
Hi, Helen Muir, 3 Hayes Hill Road, Pleasantville. I've spoken before, spoken also a long time ago, as was alluded to in 2011, when in fact Lisa put the majority of the presentation together to get a leaf blower ordinance going. Nothing has really changed since then in the effects, the detrimental effects of leaf blowers, particularly gas-powered ones. And Mr. Mayor, you mentioned earlier about we don't really know whether electric is quieter. I did a little bit of research, and I wasn't able to find commercial versus commercial exactly, but every website I looked at, even Bob Villa said that electric is quieter. And the ranges given were electric blowers run in the 65 to 70 decibel arena and gas in the 80 to 90. And I think that's going to be true even at the commercial level. I think you're just going to see a 10 to 15 decibel level drop in an electric blower. Pollution is an issue. This is not just about noise. And one of the things that gas-powered blowers do, in addition to all the particulates, which are an issue for people with respiratory problems, I'm just going to throw in there that COVID is still an issue in our society, and COVID is a respiratory disease. But also ozone is created when the gas isn't properly burned. And this is just a terrible thing to be generating. There have been ordinances in Westchester for a long time. I didn't go back and see what the oldest one was, but Yonkers has had one since 2007. Sleepy Hollow since 2013. Hastings since 2008. They all differ a little bit. Ours is in line with theirs. Some of them have multiple dates that you can use or not use gas-powered leaf blowers. But I think keeping it simple by having a date, just one date range, makes it easier to manage. And I think our dates are very reasonable. And nobody is suggesting we're going to put landscapers out of business. We're not suggesting landscaping stops. In all these communities, of which there are 20-something, landscapers still work through the summer doing their job. So I don't feel that this is an issue for preventing business. And it is a social justice issue. The people operating these machines are the closest to them. They're the ones whose hearing is affected, whose breathing is affected, and the vibrations from some of those machines, especially the larger ones, is just crazy. And electric machines just are quieter and do vibrate less. So I think we really need to think about the people using these things and not just dismiss it as, well, the business won't work, but we have to think about the workers using gas-powered blowers and how it affects them. They don't always wear ear protection, they don't always wear masks, and they're using them for hours. And I think it would behoove us to protect them too, as well as our own community, which really suffers from leaf blower noise. And I urge you, I beg you, to pass a leaf blower ordinance as soon as possible. Things get in the way, budgets, or pandemics, or storms. It goes on and on. You never know when you're going to be able to make something happen. So let's move forward with this and not wait for something to be handed to us by the state, because that takes forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Vicki Nielsen, also at 21 Guyon Street. Just sort of repeating what other people have said. I work from home. Even before the pandemic, I worked from home. It's impossible to work when the leaf blowers descend. I switched from a gas-powered lawnmower to an electric one, and it's like night and day for the noise and the smell. And even when they come to our neighbors' houses, like, we have to run through our house and close all the windows and actually put our air conditioning on, because we can't have the windows open because all the junk is coming in our house. We can't use our porch. We can't use our backyard. I think the person who spoke before, who said, you know, it's sort of, you weigh the rights of one person in the community against another, and with this, it's just really like a sensory invasion, not to even mention all the environmental issues. So I very much support this bill, and thank you for holding this hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrew Butterfield. I live at 197 Broadway, and I wanted to add my voice to the chorus in support of the ordinance, the new ordinance reducing the use of leaf blowers in Pleasantville. As was said, I think 2 meetings ago, a leaf blower, the sound of a leaf blower carries approximately half a mile. And in Pleasantville, most of us have rather small lots, which means that that sound impacts dozens of people. In my case, there are at least 15 or 20 houses whose lawn work I hear on a regular basis. I'm sure there are other people who hear even more than that. And so the major conflict is between the sound and the fact that we live mostly in small plots. And then there's the issue of balancing of the rights, but you know, I'm all for people maintaining their lawns and doing so in a way that they see appropriate, and doing so in a way that is the most labor and cost efficient manner, and I don't have an objection to that. My problem is that what happens in one lawn doesn't stay at the borders of that lawn. It impacts, it travels, as I already said, half a mile. And it can be so loud, as many people have said this evening, you can't hear yourself in your own house. And you know, one of the basic ideas, going back all the way to Roman law, is that you are the king in your house. You get to determine, as long as it's legal, you can do whatever you want in your house, which means you have the right of self-determination in your house. And that's drastically impinged when somebody else, the noise that somebody else is making, is interfering with your right to do work, or to teach, you know, help your kids with their homework, or to take a nap, or watch TV, or any other normal activity. So, you know, I don't have the right to go into somebody's house and say to them, you can't work now because I don't feel like you should be able to work now, or you can't watch TV now. But other people, the noise is so severe when a team of leaf blowers arrives at somebody's yard, you know, 5 guys going at once, you can't do anything. As someone said a moment ago, they put on their air conditioning, they close the windows. I've done that. I put on music and the air conditioning and close the windows, and you can still hear it. So I think it's a real intrusion in the well-being of the citizens of Pleasantville and the communal spirit that makes it such a lovely community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other speakers in the room? All right, Lou Dorio had his hand up. You there, Lou?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, I also would like to voice my support for the ban. And I agree with the one gentleman, it is a compromise, because the times of, there is no need to blow in the summertime. They're blowing grass clippings, they're blowing pebbles, there's not a need for that. We put up with it in Foxwood enough as it is. When the fall comes, because we've got so many trees here, it's just continuous. I had to teach my classes from inside for 2 years, and for 2 years I had to put up with this noise. The decibel level was continuously in excess of 93, 94, and that's me reading it from within my house. Last week I got a phone call. I had to go in the bathroom to hear the person on the other end. When they come around our property, there are 2 backpack blowers, 2 push blowers, and a riding blower, and they're all together. And I felt like I was trying to, I was back on my aircraft carrier. When I was in the service, the noise is just outrageous, the smell, and they're just blowing things from the ground all over in the air, in your cars, on your cars, in your house. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask that we get a reprieve from the noise and the pollution of these instruments for just the summer months. I don't think that's an imposition at all. Along the lines of, I don't believe our village ordinance on noise has a decibel level.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. You know, when you were speaking, Nicole, about there's also, you know, a level of noise that comes from the electric blowers. Maybe that's something that can be looked at as far as setting a decibel level so that any blowers that exceed that level, whether they be electric or gas, would be considered to be unnecessary or unreasonable noise. The Larchmont, picking out one community, they have a total ban. And they also are limiting electric blowers for the month of April and for the period of October to December. So in addition to totally banning the gas ones, they're also putting a limit on electric ones. And I agree with Nicole, this is the direction not only New York is taking, California is already looking at trying to ban cars, gas-powered cars, in the near future. So I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for the summer months to be devoid of having this pollution, both noise pollution and air pollution. I'm in total favor of this ordinance. I wish it was full year, but like that one gentleman said, we do have to make compromises.
Thank you, Lou.
Is there anybody else in the audience?
Jennifer Frawley, 36 Broadway. I've been a resident and a taxpayer in this village for 33 years, and somehow I feel once again that the outside people, I know some of the people who live here are our lawn people, but the outside people are trying to tell us what to do, that we should have this unlimited access for them. I have paid my taxes. I like to sit in my lawn. I like to use my outside space during the summer. I really would appreciate having a ban so that when I want to have a birthday party for my mother, my 83-year-old mother, at 5 o'clock or 4:30, I'm not drowned out by the armies of leaf blowers all around my neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Maida Snapper. I live in Foxwood also, and I just wanted to add my support to this bill. I wish it were more comprehensive, as has been said. You asked about the Foxwood board. The current board, I don't believe is as friendly and responsive to as you are. You're interested in what we think and what we want, and I appreciate that. So if you can do this, then our approach to the board would at least have some teeth. Thank you.
Peter, man?
Yeah.
So, having listened to this for quite a while and looking at the draft legislation, the thing that I am most concerned about is giving some relief in the short term to the people of the village. I realize that there may be some things that, once we pass this law, and I'm going to suggest that we amend it so that the Saturday rules take effect immediately. But once we pass this law, it's still a month till that takes effect, and it's a full year before the rest of these rules take effect. That is plenty of time for us to work out any issues about potential decibel limits, about multiple blowers, about whether we're going to allow ride-behind blowers or helicopter blowers or aircraft blowers or
the aforementioned jet.
or anything. I think there are other things that we can work out, but if we don't pass this law now, then relief for this summer becomes nearly impossible. If we wait even 2 more weeks and we add 4 weeks until the bill is filed with the Secretary of State, we're into July probably, right? So I would like to move that we amend this bill and that we pass it tonight, and that we will hear from anybody, with reasonable evidence to suggest that we should amend it before the majority of the bill takes place, just in order to give ourselves a break this summer.
So, just to be clear, if you want to move that, you need to do that not in the context of the public hearing, but in the resolution.
Yeah, I'm previewing.
Let me just interject.
Yeah.
We need to finalize the EAF Part 1 and Part 2, so I'd recommend waiting till the next meeting to actually finalize that in final form.
We need to what? Sorry?
The EAF, the
Environmental Assessment Form.
Oh, okay.
Which we can do with the next meeting.
Okay.
So the other piece of that, and don't get me wrong, I am sympathetic to the goals here. But your point about speed is about Saturday, because
Weekends and holidays.
right, because the proposed addressing this in 2 weeks has no significant effect to the bulk of the law, right?
Right.
Well,
Anyway, we don't have any choice. We can't vote on it.
yeah.
Right, I would
Well,
recommend-
I will add one more argument in favor of not delaying the vote on this past, the next meeting, which is that the decision that we made to extend the start date of the law, the benefit that is derived from that is giving people a full year to prepare, which means that we can get the word out, we can communicate to everyone, we can support potential rebate programs that exist, and we allow people as much time as possible to prepare. So one of my concerns is that if we put it off for too long, we kind of lose that advantage that we had set forth for ourselves. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I would just say I was prepared to vote tonight, and that's what I assumed was happening, and so I was a little surprised when we weren't. So I'm prepared at any time.
So obviously this will be on for a vote in 2 weeks, though, and the question I just want to pursue is in response to a couple of people who were quite clear, interestingly, one in favor of a ban and one opposed to a ban, that without a limitation on the number of blowers in use at one time on a lot, the noise goal is not achieved in their view, because commercial quality electric blowers, the kind with a battery on the backpack, the whole 9 yards, are very loud. I don't know the answer to that. I'll find it
I
out.
think in the summer they're just not going to be using them much at all.
As much, yeah.
They're just going to.
Well,
That's true.
here's hoping you're right. I would certainly support that. Oh,
So, for me, I'm in agreement that logistically that we should be ready to vote on this in 2 weeks. Right, Eric, there's no reason why we couldn't vote on this 2 weeks from now.
Correct.
all right, so is there any further comment from anybody in the context of the public hearing before we close it? Up until now, we've adjourned it and reopened it. Now we're closing it.
I have an issue that I want to
Oh,
address.
okay, well, hold on. Geraldine, you haven't spoken yet.
I'm not going to speak for too long, Peter.
You're welcome to.
No, you don't want me to. Hi, I'm Geraldine Stapleton, 2 and 4 Edgewood Avenue. My first question was on your voting in 2 weeks' time. Are you going to be just voting, or is there going to be more questions, or is it?
I mean, we often engage questions, and certainly there's a public discussion period, but the public hearing process, this is the third episode,
Sure.
is officially closed and that everybody's had their chance to weigh in. You're in that public hearing right now if you want to.
Yes, I'm late to the
That
rodeo.
doesn't mean we're not happy to
No,
hear
no,
from anybody. But
that's fine. I'm late
yeah.
to the rodeo, and I am conflicted about it, to be very honest with you. And I have a small property, so it's not like I'm in need of the ride-on lawnmowers and the big backpacks. But I did mention it to my gardener, and that was one thing that surprised me when I said to him, I said, "Are you aware?" He had no idea that this was taking place because he's a one-man operation, and his one-man operation is going to double his time. That's his feelings. It's like if I want him to come in and blow out my lawn with the gas blower and electric blower, the electric blower is going to take longer. And I'm just wondering, in the long term, all of these products are going to improve. You know, you did get a letter to the board from one of the village residents, as he said, no skin in the game, but he's talking about the fact that the electrical products are improving, and right now what we do have on the market's really not going to be very efficient for smaller, for larger properties. And I was wondering if with the electric, are we just going to have an hour and a half when it might be 45 minutes on the property? Let me see what else. I do like the idea of some type of time restrictions, and I do like the idea of looking at a day in the week that, I mean, I sit on my porch on a Sunday and, you know, God bless them, I can hear people cutting their grass and doing all, and it's not necessarily a ride-on lawnmower or it's an electric lawnmower, it's just a push one, but it's Sunday afternoon. For me, Sunday afternoon, I like it to be quiet. But what I'm saying is maybe we should look at restrictions in the long term for certain times, certain hours, but also the impact that it's doing to businesses that really don't have a high profit margin, and what's that going to do to them? And you're talking about the residents in Foxwood. How much more will your expenses increase in Foxwoods? I know you don't think it's going to be a lot, but I'm just saying it's something you should also be looking into. It's what's it going to cost to expand the hours that you do need at Foxwoods, because it is a large property and it's not the only one in town. I mean, Toll Brothers are up on Washington. There's going to be another development behind Foxwoods. You know, so I'm just pointing out that perhaps we should look at what the costs are involved in at the end of the day.
So, and maybe you would have a comment on this. I mean, part of the discussion has been what really is being achieved in, say, July and August. There are no leaves.
No, I mean, I understand.
I see people kind of blowing stuff around, and in an hour it looks the way it looked before they started.
Listen, I understand.
Yeah.
I'm looking, I saw a property on Sunnyside, and there's a massive ride-on lawnmower, and a guy is cutting a patch that's not much bigger than this area here. And then he rides up the road to the next patch
Yes,
the same
go
way.
ahead.
And then they blow everything out onto the road. So perhaps part of it is how we are working with the contractors in the
Yes.
village, as just as much as like the large companies that this is their livelihood. This is what they do and have done for many years. And then there's the smaller business that has a pickup truck, a lawnmower, a hedge trimmer, and it's impacting all of their business also.
Yeah.
That's just my feeling on it.
Yeah, just to the earlier piece you said, I mean, there's definitely a cultural shift, you know, that we're trying to make happen here, and that won't happen just through legislation, right? So part of it is like trying to lead by example. So
and perhaps working with the people who are coming into town or living in town, as is my gardener's case, you know.
Right.
I'm just
yeah. So our parks department is working on transitioning to electric equipment. They've been very happy with the equipment that they've purchased so far. I do think that there's a bit of a misconception about the efficacy of the electric equipment because it's changing so quickly.
It is changing, but then
the main driver is going to be the demand. And when you have, you know, like the state of California passing laws.
So where are all the
demand's
batteries
gonna
going
increase.
when we're done?
Well,
It's an issue, yes.
That's a separate issue, yeah. I mean, that is a, that is certainly an issue, and that's also something that's going to have to improve, right? I mean, they're working on finding ways to recycle the lithium batteries, for instance.
But they're only working on it.
Forgot my train of thought.
Yeah, but
Well, yeah, but it doesn't, I mean, just to be clear, this is a little bit of a fallacious argument, because if you look at the entire value chain in terms of pollution, the lithium battery does not at all, it's not at all the scale of problem, the amount of pollutants that you're putting into the air by combusting gas. It's not close. I mean, it's an issue for sure. It's something that you have to do, but it's not an equivalence.
Look, we have all kinds of issues in the bigger picture, including electric power is clean in places like this, but it's not clean in some of the places it's generated. So, you know, obviously society is moving in positive ways, but there's a long way to go in every column. And if you wait for the perfect solution, you'll die waiting, right?
And this gentleman who spoke, I think he just left, the gentleman who spoke about going back to Roman days, and
Yes.
you're sort of king of your own castle. Well, I feel like I'm king of my own castle too, so I don't want to be disruptive to my neighbors, but I do want to maintain a nice property. There's nothing wrong with a rake and a shovel, but then you have to say, what's your time worth?
That's why we're trying to make everybody uncomfortable and unhappy.
I will say, I will name no names, but a couple of years ago I interceded in a neighborhood dispute with some folks who were very angry at a lawn service, and I talked to the lawn service and was told that they had not had a rake or a broom on the truck in years.
Yeah.
So, okay, a lawn service that doesn't have a rake or a broom, even for the smallest thing? Come on, right?
That's the way it is. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry
Thank
about
you.
bringing it into the last minute.
All right, you're official.
And
You're
you have
official.
a lovely property, by the way.
Sorry?
You have a lovely property, by the way.
Hey, Helen. Yes, you may. Please.
I also want to say, I'm not sure if you were a part of the other two public hearings, but we had extensive conversations with landscapers.
Yes,
in one case, over 45 minutes back and forth with one company, and then two other companies at significant length as well. So
No,
it's been a part of the conversation.
I know local companies, and I've had conversations with them, and I do respect how my neighbors feel. Like, I know how I love this village and appreciate so much about it, but I am feeling like everybody should have the right to take care of their own property. But I think, to that point, we should be looking at perhaps some restrictions on what times, what type of equipment, what size of property might benefit from one or the other.
Helen, you wanted to come back?
Helen Muir, 3 Hayes Hill Road. I just wanted to thank Geraldine for coming up and speaking, and also for mentioning, kind of as a side issue, it's kind of how we do business. And I think the way forward is to treat our properties a little bit more gently and do less blowing. And if that's possible by amending the way you attend to your property, well, it is possible. And I think that as landscapers move into the future with us, that they will find ways to make the yard look just as beautiful, and without the leaf blowers being used to tidy up paths and stuff. Because if they mow differently, the clippings wouldn't land on the path. And also the comment about electricity being cleaner here, which is something we should discuss in another meeting about what's happening to our CCA, is the electricity at any source is going to be is provided differently. So if you're referring to, let's say, a gas-powered plant or a coal-fired plant making electricity, sometimes which Con Ed buys, at the source there are scrubbers and similar devices in place, just like at our incinerator in Peekskill, which are there to extract as many pollutants as possible. They're obviously not going to be perfect, but they take out sulfur dioxides, nitrous oxides, mercury, all of which we can't do while you're running a gasoline machine at home. And that applies to a lawnmower and a gas-powered blower. So one of the fabulous things about the recent rebate program has been the number of people who have taken advantage of that rebate and bought electric-powered lawn equipment. And that is one way of reducing pollution by controlling the amount of places where electricity is, where fossil fuels are used to generate electricity. So that's all.
Thank you. All right, have we said enough? Anybody else? Anybody online? I see no raised hands.
I have a vision for the future where our lawns do not look like an 80s hair band, so.
Thank you for your time and your patience, everyone. We appreciate that.
Related to this?
No.
Okay. Hold on a moment then. All right. Yeah, it's all right. We'll get to you right away. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Eric, I did have one question, and that is this public hearing concerns introductory local law 3, but introductory local law 3 is jumping ahead about the video conference law. So do we need to renumber either that, number 171, or this?
We can renumber the other.
Oh, okay.
The other one? Okay.
Great. All right.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not an introductory law. The one that we're passing today is actually a local law. The introductory refers to proposed legislation.
Okay, so,
sometimes
but
we
should
get-
it become 4 and the one we passed tonight is 3?
No, no.
Okay, fine, great.
We're staying the course.
All right, comment from the public, welcome back.
I have, forgive the crudeness of this.
Come to the
I need to
microphone.
hand
Oh,
this.
okay,
I only have 4 copies, so if you wouldn't mind somebody sharing.
that's fine, no problem.
Don't look at it just yet. Let me get back here and I'll make
Okay,
a
so
little
go to the
history.
mic because nobody can hear you.
Okay.
All right, if you could give us your name and address again, if you
I
would.
will, and I'd be glad to. My name is Carl Venona. I'm sorry, my name is Carl Venona. My
And where do you
family, I live on Lakeshore Drive.
Okay, in the village or outside?
No, it's in Mount Pleasant. It's
Okay.
right off of Church Street.
Understood.
If anybody's
I know where it
unfamiliar
is.
with it. Okay.
Okay.
My family has been a resident since 1968.
Okay.
Okay. The error I made the other night, which was my fault, was I work on airplanes for a living. I have a main job, but I also have a side business that keeps me sometimes late at night. I met my son and my wife for dinner after working late, and I was very tired, so I said to my son, take my truck to the train station. I'll pick it up in the morning. Regretfully, he had seen signs over here saying that there was a parade and did not equate that with the flea market or the farmer's market that happens on Saturday.
Right.
I got up early in the morning and I was still in my sweatpants and shirt driving down. I didn't have my wallet with me and I was going to go pick up my truck only to find out that it had been towed. Totally understandable. They have to run this in the town. The issue I have with this is, and I told you that, by the way, let me make one side point. I really enjoy the fact that we have sworn in a new officer that wanted to stand up for the community, because when I expressed my grievance to the police officer downstairs, he was very, very understanding and actually gave me good guidance on what to do, because he felt I was legitimate, okay, in my complaint. All right, and that's just a side note I wanted to bring to your point. I really appreciate the way that officer tonight said he was going to serve the community, and that's really important to me. All right, so I said to the officer, I said, I'm sure there's a fine with this. He was very, very generous. He said, listen, nobody's going to claim a 1996 Ford Ranger and say they own one, okay? So I understand you don't have your license with you, but we'll trust that you're who you say you are. I had my phone with me so I could at least prove something. So he gave me the address of the tow company. And I said, it was 7 o'clock in the morning, and I said, all right, I'm just going to go down there and figure out where this place is, because I had never been on that street in the town. So I see my truck in the yard, and it's locked up, secure, and it's sitting in a certain position. And I called, and they said, well, we're not going to have anybody there till 9 o'clock, so you can't pick it up till 9. Okay, so I was running some errands on Saturday morning. I went home, got dressed. I did a couple of things. I grabbed my wallet, and I went back there at 9, and nobody was there. So I called, and they said, well, we're running late this morning, and you'll have to come back at 11, but we'll call you when somebody's there anyway. Okay, I said, how much is the tow? Obviously, I'm going to have to pay a tow charge. They don't do towing for free. So he said to me, well, it's going to be $370. Okay. Little steep, but okay. On top of the $50 ticket, too, by the way. I call, I go back at noon, rather, and I finally get to the yard, and I find out that we don't accept credit card, we only take cash. Well, I got a real problem with that because I'm a business owner myself. And I just think that leaves a very big avenue of being able to do a cash business and actually not claim everything. I want to make sure the town of Pleasantville gets their fair share of that tow fee, okay? And I'm not making an accusation, but I just think that if we're going to have a contract with a tow company to make sure that we can do business here in town, we want to make sure that they're legitimate, okay? They need to be able to take credit cards. Plus,
on top of which, 300 and some bucks, you
yeah.
don't generally have that in your wallet.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about this. In 2011, and this is part of the story, I had been rear-ended on 120 near the airport, and the tow company picked up my car and they drove it to Harrison. Well, I found out that this tow company, whom I'm going to tell you, Patsy Lamanna, used to tow cars out of my driveway in the 1970s. Rossi used to do work on my father's car when he owned the Getty station down there. Mr. Koch was my neighbor who owned the gas station across from ShopRite.
We've been here a long time.
Yeah.
We got a lot to do tonight, so
all right, sorry.
Get to the point.
Okay, the point is, all right, I'll get this. All right, first of all, I got a real problem with not being able to pay by credit card. I could have charged this to my business too, by the way.
And I would agree with you.
The second thing, when you take my car, if you will go to this, you will see that my car got damaged. I just had a clutch put in it by Joe Finelli up in the Old Village about 3 months ago. I get in my truck, I put it in first gear, I drive out of the parking lot, I pay the guy the money that I owe him. I get my receipt and I drive away. I find second gear without a problem. As soon as I went to hit third gear, my shifter's all the way over to the right. All right, my truck is impeccable. 1996, no rust. This thing is a tight shift. I use it for my business at the airport. It's got to be working correctly. If that truck rolls into an airplane, it costs me a lot of money. The shifter, I can actually push it over to the side, and I'll show you in the drawing. I had to have Joe Finelli fix it for me, which he only charged me an hour labor. He was able to put it back to the situation where it was. I sign for everything I do on an airplane with my license. Anytime I touch a plane, if something's wrong with it, you can come back to me by my number. The police officer that wrote me a ticket put my number. I called the garage and said, who towed my truck? We don't know. He works for you. How do you not know who towed my truck? Right? This really bothered me. There's the thing called accountability. I want to see with the town is not only do we offer this contract, right, to somebody who's on another, from another town, not a local, but the fact that I want you to sign for my truck that you did it, because the accountability factor there is that if you're signing for it, you're putting your name on it, somebody can come back to you and question you about this. Working on airplanes, I'm going to tell you something, that this truck was damaged by the tow truck company. Now, in Bob's favor, he happened to grow up with Joe Finelli. We're all about the same age. And he actually made restitution to me for the amount of money it cost me to get my truck fixed so I could use it for my business. He did. He did.
That was to his credit.
Yes, I will say that Bob did do that. I'm just saying that we can put a stop to this by a few things. First of all, we're not going to take just cash. We're going to get credit cards, okay? You're going to be able to pay for it. And two, I want to know who tows the truck, because I want to see that accountability. I did it, the police officer that wrote the ticket did it, and now I think that's rough. I should be the same responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we'll pursue those questions. I certainly agree with you. They should take credit cards. So At this point in time, there are almost no companies not taking credit cards. So.
Yeah.
All right, can we pursue that, Eric?
Yes, sir.
And it also seems reasonable that a tow company wouldn't say they don't know who drove the tow truck.
That's right.
Right? All right, any other comment from the public on any subject? All right.
For expressing that, letting us know.
Yes, so.
Thank you.
All right, we did 165. Nicole, resolution 166. Let me get the Zoom back to the middle and I will share my screen.
Or maybe he's Jacob. What was his?
Okay.
All right. Resolved that the board, wait, no, I can't. Okay, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the minutes of the regular meeting held on May 23rd, 2022. The minutes are attached.
Try this.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments, questions, corrections? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. David, 167.
Resolve the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendments for fiscal year ending 2022 as listed below. $2,681 from A1325.43 Finance Conference to A1325-109 Finance Vacation Buyback. $2,465 from A1325-425 Finance Outside Service to A1325-109 Finance Vacation Buyback. $2,095 from A1325-490 Finance Bank Fees to A1325-109 Finance Vacation Buyback. $2,301 from A1325-490 Finance Bank Fees to A1380-400 Fiscal Agent Fees. $11,912 from A1990-400 Contingent to A1410-100 Admin Full-Time. $19,851 from A1990.400 Contingent to A3120-105 Police Overtime. $766 from A1990-400 Contingent to A7410-400 Library Contractual. $725 from A1990.400 Contingent to A9950-901 Transfer to Capital. $18,638 from A3010-101 Police Admin Part-Time to A3120-105 Police Overtime. $9,039 from A3120-100 Police Full-Time to A3120-105 Police Overtime. $4,734 from A3320-100 Parking Full-Time to A3310.101 Crossing Guard Overtime. $995 from A5110.105 Street Maintenance Overtime to A5010.100 Street Maintenance Admin Full-Time. $187 from Snow Removal Overtime A5142.105 to A8120.105 Sanitary Sewer Overtime. $2740 from A9035.800 Medicare to A9060.800 Health Insurance for a total of $79,129. From the Water Fund, $567 from F8340.105 Water T&D Overtime to F8320.415 Water SP&P Utilities. An increase in revenue and expense from the Capital Fund, $725 from revenue account H050.5031 interfund transfer from general fund to the expenditure account H5197.201/18492 Manville Road Corridor Project Local Funds. Payment of claims is attached.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so we've reached the end of the fiscal year, so we still have bills coming in, and also we're transferring funds to over budgeted lines. The big one is police overtime, kind of a perfect storm. We've had 2 retirements, and some officers that are injured or on medical leave. And then we've obviously been in our special event season with
March into the Light.
Pleasantville Day,
Yeah.
Memorial Day. So that is the last of it, though. We've closed out the fiscal year on the police overtime.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, and then just the other of note, the admin, the transfer to admin, 11,000 and change. Alyssa's salary, or that position, had been actually split between the general fund, water fund, refuse fund. Since she's come on, the position has adjusted, and she does, a different realm of work than Noreen did. So it's all general fund for this year.
We were paying Alyssa from the refuse fund.
Yeah, well, we were paying Noreen because Noreen did some work in the refuse fund. In the future, that may change depending on the workload Alyssa takes on, but yes.
Seems like an equity issue.
All right, comments, questions beyond that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Michael, you got off easy here in comparison to David.
168, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the abstract for payment of claims dated June 13th, 2022 for fiscal year 2022, covering check numbers 103868 to 103993. From the general fund, $137,696.30. The water fund, $4,174.35. Capital fund, $34,167.45. Refuse fund, $680.92, for a total of $176,719.02.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Back to you, Paul, 169.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the abstract payment of claims dated June 13th, 2022 for the fiscal year of 2023, covering check numbers 103994 through 104121. General Fund, $543,466.27. Special Purpose, $237.50. Water Fund, $22,106.54. Refuse Fund, $20,674.91, for a total of $586,485.22. The description and the payment of these claims is attached to this resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 170. Nicole.
Okay. Whereas under general municipal law, paragraph 103, municipalities have the option of making purchase contract awards based upon best value, which allows a municipality to rely upon non-price performance criteria in awarding purchase contracts when the initial expenditure is higher than using a lowest responsibility bidder methodology. And whereas municipalities may elect to award purchase contracts which exceed the statutory dollar thresholds of General Municipal Law Section 103 to a responsive and responsible offer, or on the basis of best value, also known as competitive offering, instead of to the lowest responsible bidder. New York General Municipal Law Section 103A. And whereas in order to award contracts based on best value, a municipality must first pass a local law authorizing the use of best value to determine contract awards as proposed by Introductory Local Law 5 of 2022. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby schedules a public hearing on June 27, 2022 at 8 p.m. at Village Hall, 80 Wheeler Avenue, Pleasantville, New York, 10570, to consider Introductory Local Law 5 of 2022 to create Chapter 9 of the Code of the Village of Pleasantville concerning best value procurement.
Is there a second?
Second.
So appended to this is a memo from Keenan Bean, our legal counsel, describing the opportunity to do this. And just to be clear to folks, in order to accept something that isn't the lowest responsible bidder, you have to go through a pretty clear and transparent process to explain why. It can't just be, I like the cut of their chip.
Correct. And as we're now in this environment with long lead times, certainly there's a value add when some companies can source equipment or material more efficiently than others. So this gives us more leeway.
Okay. Comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
motion approved. That should be a short public hearing, I think. 171.
Me.
Is this to be local law 3 now or 4?
This would be local law 3.
Okay.
Whereas on April 9th, 2022, Governor Hochul signed Chapter 56 of the laws of 2022, which creates Section 103A of the New York State Open Meetings Law to make permanent until July 1st, 2024, the expanded use of video conferencing by public bodies to conduct open meetings under extraordinary circumstances, regardless of a declaration of emergency, and whereas under the legislation for 60 days after the effective date of Chapter 56, accordingly through June 8th, 2022, public bodies are authorized to meet and take such action authorized by law without permitting in public in-person access to meetings, and authorize such meetings to be held remotely by conference call or similar service, providing that the public has the ability to view or listen to such proceeding and that such meetings are recorded and later transcribed. Whereas the Village of Pleasantville Board of Trustees desires to adopt a local law to authorize members of the village's local public bodies to participate in meetings via video conference in a manner consistent with the authority granted in Public Officers Law 103-A, and whereas introductory local law 4 of 2022 is proposed on May 9th, 2022, and a public hearing was held and closed on May 23rd, 2022, Monday, May 23rd, 2022. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby adopts introductory local law 4 of 2022 to allow members of all public bodies of the Village of Pleasantville to participate in meetings via video conference, which is to become local law 3 of 2022 upon its passage, and be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby adopts the conference policy attached hereto.
Is there a second?
Second.
So the storm of 3 versus 4, you're on top of it.
That's right.
You
Yeah,
got it.
we track proposed legislation differently, and then when it
I
passes,
gotcha.
it gets another.
I believe you.
Explain me how something is permanent if it lasts for 2 years.
Right.
In perpetuity as long as
so,
it used to be.
And right, the other layer to this is, remember, as long as the state of New York has a state of emergency in place,
that supersedes this.
yes, boards can operate just totally via Zoom, and it actually expires on the 15th. Presumably, it'll be extended another 30 days. But so this really takes effect when the state drops the state of emergency.
Right, but it doesn't extend past 2024.
Right, which
either way, right?
Right, presumably. Well, we'll see what the world.
In
right,
New York
right.
State politics, that is, you know,
That's
Yes.
forever, right?
Right,
That's forever.
yeah.
It's one term of an assemblyman, so
Yeah,
it's
right.
forever.
But no matter what, it's a positive development. So.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 172. Michael.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the notice of retirement for John Listwan, Police Lieutenant, effective June 15th, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
So, worthy of note, we had a ceremony on Friday for John Listwan, who rose through the ranks here in the Village of Pleasantville, starting as a patrolman in 1994 and being promoted to sergeant and later to lieutenant. Served us for 28 years in that role. He is marching off to at least a part-time life out west in a manner that I think he has dreamed of likely for a very long time. So we wish him the best, appreciate 28 years of good service. It will be hard to live up to the spit and polish that John Listwan delivered as an officer of the Village of Pleasantville. Quite a legacy to leave. All in favor?
Where out west is he going?
Colorado. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 173. Paul.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees here approves the hiring of John Petroni as the part-time bus driver, job code 204 at the hourly rate of $20 with retroactive hiring date of June 4th, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Senior bus?
Yes. Yep. He's on board. He started earlier, so we wanted to get
Great.
that on the record.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Nicole, 174.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville, location code 40104, I didn't realize we had a location code, hereby establishes the following as standard work days park foreman and will report days worked to the New York State and local employees retirement system based on the timekeeping system or the record of activities maintained and submitted by these members to the clerk of this body. Park foreman 8 hours, is that what that
Right,
means?
8 hours
Yep.
per day. Is there a second?
Second.
And we're required to pass a resolution. We did that previously, but that parks foreman mistakenly had 7 hours instead of 8.
It's singular in the resolution and then plural below. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, it was taken from the last resolution, but
Okay.
we can amend in the minutes.
I think it's okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. David, 175.
Resolve the Village Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to execute the membership agreement with the Education Services Commission of New Jersey Cooperative Pricing System.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this is a cooperative pricing system like Sourcewell, which we are a member of. It allows us an additional agency to source materials through. Particularly this time around, we're finding that they have vendors that offer truck parts that we need. So that are difficult to come by these days.
Fun.
Okay, comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
175, 176. Turn, was it?
It's me.
Michael, yes.
Resolved that the Village Board of Trustees authorizes the village administrator or designee to execute the custom sponsorship agreement for the Pleasantville Music Festival attached hereto with Scarborough and Tweed, Pam Nation, The Refreshed Home, and Vallone Printing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Continuing our work through this as Bruce Figler and his team gain sponsorship agreements with all of these folks. Comments, questions?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Get tickets. Coming up Saturday, July 13. 9. Sorry, that's 13 in the month. See, I was just testing. 177, Paul.
Okay.
I think you can say as stated in the record.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following stipends for services performed in support of the 2002 Pleasantville Music Festival. As stated in the record, there's a list there, and you can find that by reviewing the record.
Is there a second?
Second. That
So
was
just to be
my
clear,
favorite.
there are modest stipends to folks who are essentially chairs or co-chairs of the various departments, and more significant stipends, obviously, to Bruce Figler, Executive Director, who received a stipend of $10,000 for his essentially year-round work on this venture. Comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. That is the end of our regular resolutions. Any new business from anybody?
I just wanted to update everyone on October 1st on the block party that we're trying to do.
Oh, great.
So we've narrowed down Washington Avenue with, that's where the car show would be. And so we have about 47 cars that are willing to participate. It's just last weekend I saw them at the Rosehill Shopping Center parking lot. That's where they usually do those shows a lot. So they're very enthusiastic about doing that. Lucho is looking to have a DJ right outside his pizzeria. He's at the Italian Ice, and apparently some kind of special with the pizza he's selling. Something about an old school price of like when he opened or something like that. Something like that.
That sounds cool.
Well, it's just like Dish Network. Prices never change.
Yeah. The fire department has also agreed that they want to participate, being that it's Fire Prevention Month. They're looking to essentially have the fire truck, as that will be kind of like the end of where the street kind of closes off, kind of the same way that we close it when we do the fireman parades.
Yes.
So they're on board with that. So it seems like Washington Avenue seems to figure it out on that end. I had a meeting with Eric, with Chief Kunstner, and he said that, you know, we'd have a police officer on that side of Washington Avenue that's kind of just patrolling the street. And so Manville will still be open, so it'll just kind of have to be, I asked the chief if he thought we needed a crossing guard or someone, but he says as we have the lights and, you know, people will kind of have to monitor that going from Wheeler over to Washington and back and forth. So we have that. And the question I want to make sure that for the next part is that as we spoke about closing the parking lot that belongs to Holy Innocents, now I'm not sure if that's something we asked them first, or so it would be, because the Holy Innocents parking lot is essentially going to be, I don't know if you remember last year how when Alan from Soul Brewery provided us a map of the vision that he had for an Oktoberfest last year, which was essentially tables in the middle, different tables set up with
So you're
chairs.
talking about
In
the parking lot between the bagel store and Holy Innocents?
Exactly.
So that's not the one they own. They own the
You're
one
the only one on
the corner of Tompkins.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so that's ours. Okay, perfect,
Yes.
and that helps then. Makes it much easier, so it's ours. So,
Yes.
so we're looking to,
I was trying to imagine the bagels outside the church there.
so what we're looking to do is we have a map ready of what we're gonna use, and essentially, like we said, is putting in the middle tables and chairs, and then all around that area is where the tents for anyone that's gonna be selling food or alcohol is gonna go there. Now, the sale of alcohol, the way that we're looking to work at it is that in both the entrances, coming out of Bedford Road right next to the bagel store and walking in the alley right next to Soul, there'll be security there that essentially is checking for people who would like wristbands, specific big wristbands that can show that you've shown your ID to security guards. It's the only way you can get it. You can only essentially have an alcoholic beer into that whole area. So if
You
people
can't take it back out.
Exactly. It just gets stopped right there. That's where security is on both ends. Obviously, people will have kids if they're going to eat because it's an eating area, but it's also
All the food would be in there, though?
Yeah.
None on the street?
None on the street. The only people who would have
So
it.
just in that parking area or also on Wheeler?
Well, on Wheeler there would be food, but just within the permits that people have outside of their restaurants, essentially.
Okay.
So the part that goes into, like, for example, Foley's wants to be a part of doing food and alcohol, so they're already gonna have that. And then this opens it up for Old Village places like Craft or anyone else that wants to come
Right.
down and do things like that.
Is Wheeler blocked off too in
Yeah,
addition to
Wheeler's-
Washington?
yeah.
So
Wheeler's-
Manville runs, but then Wheeler's blocked and Washington's blocked.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
And whose serving license are each of these entities that are serving alcohol operating under their own license independently, so many people get a special one-day permit?
Exactly. So in discussion that I had with Alan about this, I've created a committee that's going to be more than likely spearheaded by Alan, by Maria Amato from Foley's. I'm going to be speaking to Rob from Lucy's, the different businesses that want to sell alcohol, and essentially what they're going to do is they're going to submit the exact same permits that they get for the day, and they have to designate exactly where it is that they're going to be. They have to designate what security is going to be there. They have to have, I believe, some kind of bathroom, like porta potties or something that has to be in that area. So we're working on the logistics of all that, but I just wanted to make sure that the village is on board with us being able to use that lot. I wasn't sure, I thought it was Holy Innocent, so I didn't want to go through all this planning and then not be able to use that lot. So that's where we're at right now.
So it's our lot, and as long as it's sealed off at the Wheeler end, you can't use it for cars and parking anyway, right?
Yeah.
Unless we, for one day, allowed people to exit onto Bedford, which the county would be unhappy about.
Yeah.
So my only question about that is just multiple purveyors of alcohol. My only question there is how we, likely not too big a problem, but we certainly periodically have problems with people who overconsume, and in a circumstance where there are so many places outside on our property to buy alcohol, we just need to understand how that would get managed. So each purveyor is responsible for making sure they're not serving somebody who
Correct,
three sheets of the
and
wind.
they're going to work together as a team. We've already also looked at professional security guards that either have done this at different, Alan has gone to different places in different towns and counties where they've had professionals or either retired police officers who have more experience in making sure IDs are valid.
And the places serving alcohol would pay for that.
Correct.
Okay, so.
And then I have Jacob Burns is interested in being a sponsorship, having sponsorship in the event. So the proceeds that we're going to get from that and from the chamber is to then, for example, get things for we're trying to get some music, live music. We're trying to get to be on Wheeler Avenue, like face painters, balloon, kind of like the way Pleasantville Days that had different entertainers on Wheeler for like just to have that available and maybe a kids area, things like that.
And what hours are you thinking?
So we'd like to close, our propose is to close from 12 p.m. Till about 9. Now that day, just to remind everyone, is homecoming. So I think there will be a lot of people out and about going to different games. It'll be, I think, a really good way to encourage to kind of show Pleasantville can be a walking town. So if you're walking to the games, you walk down into town, you go get food, you go hang out. The football game, I think, starts at 6:30. Some people will leave from there, but this is going to be promoted as not just a Pleasantville event, but a more the neighboring cities and villages to come kind of see what our village has to offer. So I think it's going to be a showcase of what Pleasantville really is about nowadays. I think especially looking at the new building that's coming up, you know, a lot of people from other towns that haven't seen it are really going to kind of see and showcase what we're showing. We're looking to have Saturday be the day, but if it rains or something, Sunday would be the rain day.
Okay.
That way everyone can plan accordingly, because obviously with restaurants, they have to order extra food, extra things, and we don't want that to go to waste.
So you're under the hood of this. I just do wonder, 9 hours is a long time. So that's up.
So
I'll
I
leave that
mean,
to you, yeah.
that's where we're starting right
Okay.
now. But I mean, it can get changed if anything, move up a little bit later.
So
like
that
a
turns
1.
us into 2 shifts overtime, right?
Yeah.
So that's just something to think about. So
Yeah. I'm
not that we wouldn't do it. I just.
I'd say like the traffic you got on the almost impromptu. I mean, I know it was a lot of work, but like the
Yeah.
less planned
Yeah, it was
one was
popular.
unbelievable. So I think we would probably support the hours.
Right. I mean, I think and obviously being mindful of what's happening, and you know, yes, there's one aspect that there will be alcohol being sold, but alcohol is sold all over the village.
Yeah.
You know, in those times, and people we're hoping that come out and are responsible about that, and we are encouraging this to be a family kind of event. So that's also why we moved over the name to Block Party and not, you know, not Beer Fest kind of thing or Oktoberfest. So I think in that aspect, people hopefully with their families, with their children, are coming out more, and it kind of leaves the whole day so that, you know, there is more of a family feeling at some point, and then, you know, later on they go home, and then you have like a couple older crowd. That's where we would probably end by like 9 or so. And then people can kind of disperse to wherever they want to go. People are coming back from the football game, and then they can go back. And I think just support all the businesses will get benefit from all.
Are you getting the dunking booth for the mayor?
So
where would the music go? Where would
So we'd like to have a stage on that area where the parking lot is, where the food will be. We'd like to put a stage there or some kind.
So if you did that though, does that kind of draw restaurants that are trying to serve out of their bricks and mortar location don't get much activity, right?
Right. I mean, ideally, what I'm trying, I'm
I'll leave
only
it up to
trying
you,
to keep
right?
it at people who are businesses that are in Pleasantville, or definitely have to be a part of the Pleasantville Chamber of Commerce, and just getting them to kind of draw, because they always seem to be somewhat neglected, because we haven't been able to have things, or, for example, up in the Old Village, or even towards like McDonald's and those restaurants. You know, those a lot of those are part of the chamber, so if they're looking to come out. I would imagine there are not going to be a lot of beer vendors because there's just a lot more to do for that. So I would just think it'd be more getting those vendors to get those special permits to be able to sell food. We're aware that it has to be done well because I'm not sure if you guys knew, but at Pleasantville Day, the Department of Health was here. They did show up. They went and checked one of the high school class of when they're graduating, they went and checked like the refrigerator to make sure that it was enough, and it was cool enough essentially, so we're aware that they can come by. And
And they come to the music festival every year.
Yeah, so with that in mind, obviously, you know, we kind of last year, I think, got really lucky with how it kind of went. It was very promptu, but this year, I think if we could do it the right way and we've got enough people and we're doing it with enough time, right? Last year, I think at this time we were just talking about it, but it wasn't really an idea. But now we're trying to really get everything concrete and set by July. You know, who's doing what, getting all the permits, so that by August, all permits should start coming in, and then we get it all set up. We have 2 months to essentially make sure that we man it, who's going to run things, and the shifts that people are going to be on, and all that.
What about seating areas? Are you going to have any seating on Wheeler?
Yeah, we have the ability to do that, exactly. So, I mean, if people want to buy their food and go over there, yeah, definitely. Last year, we put a couple tables right by Soul, just because everyone seemed to be in that area. But yeah, we could definitely do that as well. And because the idea is, it's not just to, we kind of want to draw people throughout the whole area. So I was telling you, Lucio's would have the DJ that he's going to have over there. But I'd like to put some kind of music, as we had last year by Nona Square, over there. That's kind of the interest on Wheeler there. And then we'd have some kind of music up by where the food area will be. And we'll kind of, you know, space out when people are performing, so it's not like, you know, people go in different areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea of having it be kind of circulatory, you know, is nice.
So you just answered one of my questions, I think. But so there's a Saturday Mass at Holy Innocents, and I was just envisioning if there's an amplified band playing like right outside the door.
Do you know? I
could
can
be
look at
an
that
issue.
and just make sure that there's no one at that point in that area. If
That's
it's a
what I'm
mess.
getting at. If
Yeah.
you're going to do multiple,
you
could stagger
we
it.
could stagger and draw
So
more
just-
to know in a park.
Select the right music.
Just select the right music, exactly. No, but I could foresee.
Yeah, no, that's I was told about the mass. So that I was concerned when I thought that maybe they would be like, well, we need parking for the mass.
I think the noise will be the bigger factor.
So I think that we can definitely move that around.
Because it's already going to be noise just with people out there talking. But
No, I think that's easy to do. Just stagger it and make it.
All right,
whoever's
well,
down there.
they
Good
keep
stuff.
their masses pretty tight to an hour, so it's only an hour you got.
Okay, that's easy to do. So that's where we're at. I mean, it's a big undertaking, but I think that, you know, I'm really proud of what our downtown is becoming, and I want to showcase that more. You know, I want to make it for all these buildings that are coming up. They're going to need people to live there, and I want people to see it and say like, wow, this place is awesome. I mean, I've gone to last Sunday. I went to the Tarrytown had a street fair, which was really, really well done. I mean, it's on a hill, and they were able to do such a good job. And they have a lot going on, and I was like, we could do much better. We have the room, we have the space, we have vibrant downtown, and you know, there's just a lot of good stuff like that.
That's great.
Yep. So that's the
All right. So the name is the Block Party.
Yeah,
That's the
Pleasantville
name?
Block Party. It's
Okay.
gonna be this year. More likely that sort of will stick, but we think that it's a little more family friendly. We categorize it as that.
So is this our Block Party resolution approval? Is that?
Ah.
We need signatures from the.
You have to get 50% of the residents.
And it's October 1st.
October 1st, yeah.
Great.
All right.
Just to let you guys know, Peter and I went to an event at the library last week. I've been working on a small committee, on a design committee for a major renovation of the library. The architects have done a great job.
Really a great job.
They've
Same
got-
footprint, no change in the
Same
outside.
footprint, no change, but dramatic change in the inside.
I was mightily impressed, so
exciting.
thank you, Dave.
Yeah, yeah,
Very
so it's
exciting.
really exciting. I think they're going to start to figure out how to bring it out to the public soon. And but the good news is that I think they can do a substantial part of this on their own, and there's going to be some gap, but it's not, hopefully not going to be
They've
huge.
benefited from good cash management and also some bequests, including an unexpected one. So
yeah,
it's great stuff.
So cool.
Great stuff.
I have a little piece to share, which is that there's a garden on Manville Avenue. It's an island that was created by Jeff at one point that kind of falls outside of the beautification committee projects, and so it had been neglected for a while. It was designed by Carolyn Ramsey. I don't know if you know her. She's a master gardener, and it was originally designed to be kind of an educational garden. It's primarily planted with native plants, and so it's sort of a pollinator garden too. Anyway, it had been neglected, and Adina McGinley, who's a local resident, was starting to take it upon herself to weed it. But today the Parks Department came and did a big cleanup and added a bunch of plants. So I would check it out.
Which one is
it?
that?
Where is
Sorry,
it?
where is it?
Right
So
by the Rebecca Lane parking lot where Manville widens out there.
Oh,
It's that
okay.
triangle.
Yeah, so if you go, up towards the old village where it gets wider there on the right. Yeah.
Cool.
I have one update just on Manville Road as of today. The PCI, the company that won the bid, submitted the highway work permit to DOT, which has been
Great.
Oh, good.
quite the process. But now we're hopeful that DOT turns that around rather quickly, so we're tracking to a early July start.
Great. And how long do we think the construction will last?
Well, that's the multi-million-dollar question. We are going to be running into lead time specifically for the traffic light here at Manville Memorial.
Right.
So, but the goal was to get that into DOT so they could, cross the T, dot the I's, and then we'll have a clear schedule to start communicating.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, anything else? All right, let me just quickly, didn't get announcements out at the beginning because of our various events, and just a shout out to the community, to the Fancher Nickel American Legion Post, to the high school band and chorus, and to the Brownies, and to the Boy Scouts, and to all of you, and to our colleagues on the school board who participated in the veterans, in the Memorial Day ceremony. And in what is always a big week for Pleasantville, the fire department parade came roaring back after a 2-year hiatus, and that was a great thing, and a whole lot of logistics and organization goes into that. Shout out to the Pleasantville Volunteer Fire Department for that. And get yourself to PleasantvilleMusicFestival.com and buy tickets. July 9, coming up soon.
That's right.
Alyssa's counting down the dates. All right. Is there a motion to move into executive session on matters of real property and personnel?
So we will.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Thank you all if you are still with us, or if you are watching again. We'll be back in 2 weeks on June 27.
Oh, I
It's
was
always
thinking.
been